Welcome in to the Chief Zone podcast. I am Farzi Vasugian. It is a Wednesday night. We are live. Yes, we are live on Facebook and YouTube, and also having this archived on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Spotify, Apple, and many other places where you can download and listen to this great podcast. Appreciate all of you guys tuning in live, and for those of you listening to the archive versions, appreciate all of you guys as well. Thank you for tuning in to the Chiefs Zone podcast. Farzin Vasugian here with you. Kind of a quiet week for the Kansas City Chiefs. Still some things to go over here. Some big news came out today regarding Xavier Worthy, and a little update on, actually a major update on his legal front. We'll touch on that. A former Kansas City Chief in hot water again. Also, do we have a strong indication of what the Chiefs draft could look like? I'll get into that later on and tell you what you can expect from the Chiefs in this draft. And more here on this episode of the Chief Zone. You guys know the drill. Facebook.com/Farzin Vasugian, YouTube.com/The Chief Zone. Appreciate all of you guys tuning in on Facebook and YouTube. Appreciate you guys. Come on in, pull up a chair, chill out, have a seat. Let's talk. Here on the Chief Zone podcast. The Chief Zone podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. The NCAA tournament is over, but there's still a lot of sports action to take in. Major League Baseball is in full swing. The NBA and the NHL playoffs coming up very soon. Go Knights, go. Also got a TKO takeover coming to Kansas City very soon at the end of this month. PBR, UFC Fight Night, and WWE Raw all taking place at T-Mobile Center in downtown Kansas City. You guys want to check out any sports action in person, the best place to do so is through SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets, and at checkout, put in my promo code FARZIN, and you'll save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, at checkout, put in FARZIN as your promo code, and new customers can save $20 off their first order. All right. Little quick housekeeping note here. And I don't bring this topic here with any excitement. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, to the point. I mean, listen, a lot of you guys, I love all you guys. Appreciate all the support you guys have given, especially in the last 365 days, because the social media and the engagement at an all-time high. It's never been this high before. I know I say this so much, so I'm not going to repeat myself, because I know you guys don't want me to sound like a broken record. 99% of you post great things, and I apologize, I don't get to read every single comment. I wish I could. If I did, I seriously would be spending my entire time in front of a phone, a tablet, or a computer just reading comments. But because of how great the engagements are and how many there are, the volume, I don't have the time to be in front of a computer reading every single comment. Unfortunately, there are some comments that are out there that, let's just say, there are comments made by certain people that they would not say face to face. Guys, you got to chill out with the comment section a bit. I mean, there are some serious things, and I think you guys know I've loosened up on blocking and all that shit over the years. A major part of it is because I just don't give a shit anymore and stop giving a shit about. So you guys can say whatever you want about me. I don't care. I mean, say whatever you want. I think I've posted a couple of times. People have been saying that they always try to get my attention and they don't get comments out of me. It's because I don't even see these comments. It's not that I'm ignoring the comments. It's because I don't even see them. People think I remember certain people. I mean, listen, like Scott in the comments. Yeah, Scott's a frequent on the podcast. Of course, I remember Scott. Several other, Bob. All of you guys, everyone knows who Bob is. He's got the hottest calls on our postgame podcast. But in all seriousness, there just gets to a point where some of you guys disagree or don't like each other. I mean, take it into the DMs with one another. I mean, in my comment section, it's a little. I always think it's weird when people argue in my comments. That's when I put the fun away. I'm like, okay, I don't even want to see this anymore. But you know, me and the other admins, we've been getting tagged because certain things are being said. Just chill out a bit. It's the internet. No need to fight one another. Deep. I mean, listen, if you're not one of those people who argues with people, then you know this is not directed to you. But there are some things that are said by certain people that, let's just be honest, I would never say some of these things to anyone's face. Not that I've ever attacked anyone personally, but some of you guys seem to contribute to that kind of thing. I don't know what joy you all get in that kind of engagement on the internet, but that's a question for you guys to answer, not me. So chill out a bit, tone it down. Let's drop the temperature a bit. Let's just have some fun talking Chiefs football. And if it's not Chiefs football, could be something as funny as look at this guy here for the Chicago Cubs. He's up to bat or he's on deck to bat rather. And look at this. Yeah, some weirdos in the background there, like things like that we post sometimes. We have some fun. It's a chill community. I think you guys all get the idea here, but let's tone it down a bit. I will leave it at that. If I'm talking to you, you know who you guys are. If you're not one of those people, then you know that also. All right, enough of that. That was boring. Let's get into some good stuff. Let's talk about some Kansas City Chiefs football here and some big news that came out today. It actually was posted yesterday, but no one really saw it. So I shared it today, and that's kind of when it kind of blew up. Not that I take credit for sharing anything. I don't care. I mean, this is not my story. I never reported it, and I shared where it came from, and this is from TMZ. And say what you want about TMZ, but they're usually pretty accurate with this kind of stuff here. And the report got out that Xavier Worthy and his ex-fiance Tia Jones, they are dropping their legal cases against each other. They have reached an agreement on Tuesday. Xavier Worthy did speak up for the first time, broke his silence for the first time in all of this. I'll read you guys the quote. As a matter of fact, I should probably share it on the screen so you guys can see it as well for those of you watching on the video version here. But Xavier Worthy says, "I regret any misunderstandings or conflicts that arose during my relationship with my ex-fiance. I also acknowledge that my legal representatives may have made public statements about my ex-fiance that were intended to protect me, but were misstated." That's interesting. Ending a relationship that spanned over a year can be an emotional experience, and sometimes words are spoken out of hurt and frustration. This matter has now been settled. That is a statement from Xavier Worthy, and that was shared by TMZ. So it sounds like this whole thing between Xavier Worthy and his ex-fiance Tia Jones seems to be over. I mean, this was probably a wild 30 days for Xavier Worthy and his ex. If you've noticed, his ex-fiance, who's an Olympic athlete, she has been posting recently, but has the comments turned off, which is normal in these kinds of things. And I think some of the details that came out about what she had done, allegedly, just doesn't put her in a good light. But Xavier Worthy was suing for extortion. I don't think defamation was part of the lawsuit, but a lot of people felt like she should have been sued for defamation. Because if you guys remember that Saturday when this all came out, I was traveling the day it all happened. So it was just kind of a weird whirlwind of events from my perspective. But we learned that Xavier Worthy was arrested and charged. And the morning the story came out, and by nighttime, it ended with the district attorney, talked to multiple witnesses. They all had the same story essentially, and the DA decided to drop the charges against Xavier Worthy and was no longer accepting the case. Well, Xavier Worthy, Tia Jones, they both had filed lawsuits against each other, temporary order, those kinds of things came up, and now they're dropping charges. They came to some sort of a settlement, an agreement. That's pretty common in these kinds of situations. Now, a lot of people were saying, why is Xavier Worthy letting this go? She should definitely be sued for defamation. Now, I don't disagree. I mean, listen, Tyreek Hill had every right and every reason to sue some people in the local media for defamation. If you guys remember the child abuse allegations and some of the things that were portrayed a certain way. Let's leave it at that. But here's my thing. If you're a professional athlete, what do you gain from a defamation type of lawsuit? Peyton Manning, what if you guys remember right before the Super Bowl 50, I think it was, against the Panthers, this report came out of some sexual harassment incident that took place at the University of Tennessee with a female equipment manager or some female that was there. And Peyton Manning's name was tied into that. And Peyton Manning did an interview on TV right before the Super Bowl and said that's just defamation. Well, why didn't Peyton Manning sue for that? Well, I don't think Peyton Manning would really gain anything out of it at the end of the day. Nor does he need any of the money to come out of that, because he's in a pretty good place. And he was probably just wanting to focus on the Super Bowl and probably just retire right after that. Xavier Worthy, not at the same level of Peyton Manning, but, you know, he's coming off a good rookie campaign, and he probably wants to focus on improving. We know what the Chiefs can do with their wide receivers. We saw Rashee Rice prior to his injury. The rise he made from his rookie season to his second season did not look like a guy who was coming off a rookie season. And I think a lot of people, me included, are expecting that Xavier Worthy can make a very similar jump going into his second season. So I think there's a lot of focus from Xavier Worthy that he wants to focus on football, because if he were to be aggressive and go for a defamation lawsuit, extortion, whatever lawsuit he could come up with against his ex-fiance, well, then this would drag out, because these things don't get solved right away. And this could ultimately be a distraction. And that's never anything you want. So Xavier Worthy just said, look, probably figured out something. Now, I'm seeing some people this never came as a thought in my mind. But there are some people saying, oh, it sounds like they got back together. Oh boy. Man, listen, I get it. The Royals were kind of like this 10 years ago with Eric Hosmer and Casey McDonald and a couple of other players on the team. Like, their personal lives were just out there more. And because the Chiefs are so good right now, their personal lives, they're just out there. I mean, everyone knows about Patrick and Brittany and a lot of the things that go on in their lives. Lord knows that the entire world, whether you like him or not, is aware of Travis and Taylor. I think some people are aware of Chris Jones and just some of the things that have come out about his personal life. That's just kind of the way things have happened in Kansas City. Not saying it's right or wrong. I mean, you can care about it or not care about it. Well, even if you couldn't care less about any of this stuff, it's out there and you're aware of it. So these kinds of things are always going to be under some sort of a microscope. Now they get back together. I don't know. It's not really any of my business. All I would care about is, okay, hopefully she screwed you once, and I'm not saying literally or physically, I'm talking figuratively. Don't let it happen again. Look, here's the problem with some professional athletes, and we see this a lot in the NFL. No, it's not it's a Vegas Golden Knights shirt, baby. Go Knights, go. We're taking the cutback this year. Here's a problem with a lot of athletes. They get into these kinds of trouble. I know in the NFL, there was that one period where DUI seemed to be a thing, and I think it was even celebrated that for a whole 30 days, there was no DUI incident with any NFL player. I think the problem is a lot of these players surround themselves with the wrong people, whether it's your girlfriend or your best buddy who suddenly he thinks he's hot shit just because he's hanging out with you, who's an NFL player and just came off a Super Bowl appearance. I mean, you've got to be very careful. Listen, every young kid dreams about wanting to be an NFL player or an NBA player or a professional athlete in general. But as you get older, you kind of realize the realistic possibility of that even happening. And I think once you get into late high school, college, if you're fortunate enough to be playing at that high of a level, and you get closer and closer to possibly getting to the pro level, you realize maybe this isn't as glorious as it sounds. And listen, I've heard stories. I can't really confirm any of these because I don't know these for a fact, but I hear certain things behind closed doors. Dude, there are a lot of players that get contacted by someone from high school they hardly ever spoke to. And they're like, man, can you get me a ticket to this big Monday night game or this big playoff game? Like, I guarantee you, Patrick Mahomes has been contacted at least once by someone who never talked to him in high school, but is contacting him for a ticket to a Chiefs game. I mean, these things, Dustin says they're never, quoting Taylor Swift, never, ever getting back together. You guys don't want to hear me sing again. Here's my thing. Sandy has a very interesting comment here. She says Worthy needs to concentrate on his football career. My friend Eddie, who's been on this podcast many times, he said that if he was ever a professional athlete, he would never date, get married, none of that stuff when he was playing. I don't know if I particularly agree with that kind of thing. I mean, listen, you're a professional athlete. You got the money. You got all the girls, all the single ladies have their eyes on you. That's cool, but it's also not cool because, and listen, I'm not saying this is someone who started dating Worthy ever just because he's in the NFL. I mean, they've been together for, he said, over a year. Again, we don't know what really happened. What we do know is we know something bad went down behind closed doors, and this led to kind of an embarrassing series of events here where it looks bad on him, then it looks bad on her. I mean, at the end of the day, the reason Xavier Worthy or any professional athlete in this situation would come to an agreement rather than trying to get someone in trouble for defamation or extortion, they want this behind them. They want this behind them. And I got a really good tweet from someone today saying that the initial damage has already been done. Regardless what the follow-up updates are, the initial damage is always what a lot of people stick with. So a lot of people outside of Kansas City hear, oh, Xavier Worthy got in trouble. Another Chief in trouble. But what they don't care to realize, hey, it's not what it seems like the initial report, because his legal team had a lot of things to say, and he's claiming some of it was misstated. That's interesting. I'm not sure what was or was not misstated, but they claimed out photographic evidence. And hours later, the DA drops the case and Worthy's released. So not released from the Chiefs, released from prison. I just hope at the end of the day, it's like, you got to make the right decisions. Look at Kareem Hunt. You couldn't tell Kareem Hunt was around the wrong crowd. Now, he had a little incident at a bar in Cleveland where there was arguing. No evidence of any bad activity. And then he was pulled over for weed. Like, okay, big deal. Weed. I mean, come on. But since then, have you heard of Kareem Hunt getting into trouble? No, that's probably a big reason why he got a second chance in Kansas City. He probably started surrounding himself with the right people. I mean, if you're Xavier Worthy, and I get it, you're 21, young love, that's the thing. Listen, we were all 18, 19, 20, 21 once, right? Probably have feelings still there. I get it. You're 21, you're coming off your rookie season, you got engaged, and then it all goes to hell. So hopefully he makes the right decision. Because listen, who he gets back together with or who he chooses to date next, that's his personal life. That's his business. None of ours. Until, not that it ever is our business, but it does get out there in the public sphere that, oh, he got into trouble with this person. The NFL players or NFL teams don't draft players for them to get in trouble. And unfortunately, there's been some of that in Kansas City. in recent years with personnel, coaches, whatnot. So hopefully Xavier Worthy makes the best decision moving forward for himself. Speaking of staying out of trouble, Tyreek Hill cannot stay out of trouble. So Tyreek Hill, obviously a former Kansas City Chief, traded to Miami. Remember when the Chiefs were supposed to absolutely suck without Tyreek Hill? Yeah, I remember that. So according to Sunny Isles Beach Police Department, they responded to some sort of a call, some sort of an inquiry about a domestic matter that took place. I don't know if this was at Tyreek Hill's residence or where this was specifically. It's at Sunny Isles Beach. That's from that police department. And something involving Tyreek Hill and his wife. And TMZ is reporting this occurred on Monday, by the way. TMZ is reporting today that Tyreek Hill's wife has filed for divorce. Look, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are doing backflips every time they hear something's going on with Tyreek Hill. Not because they're glad that he's in trouble. Not that at all. No one wants that for anybody. But forget about football. Like the Chiefs, they've been to the Super Bowl every year, all 3 years without Tyreek Hill, winning two of the first two back-to-back. The Chiefs, I think trading Tyreek Hill might have been one of the best moves this franchise has ever made, not just from a football standpoint, but from an off-the-field standpoint. Whenever you trade for someone or you sign someone and they have an off-the-field issue, that's a gamble, man. Tyreek Hill, he's had a couple of alleged incidents with his one of his ex-fiancées, Crystal Espinal, who I'm referring to specifically, but they broke up. And after that breakup, we never really heard of Tyreek Hill getting involved in other kinds of trouble. Other baby mamas have occurred, but nothing horrible beyond that. Okay, I mean, he's got several baby mamas. I think the money can take care of that. Fast forward to his time in Miami. Dude, there's something that occurs every single time with Tyreek Hill. The incident allegedly at the boat in his own backyard where I guess he was training someone and allegedly it was abuse. Not the arrest, but being detained in front of the stadium, in front of fans who are trying to get to the stadium, and how that whole thing escalated the way it did. And now this whole incident, there's a common denominator here, folks. And just because nobody was arrested or charged doesn't mean he's in the clear. I'm not saying book him and say he's guilty. Not at all. Obviously, whatever happened needs to be looked into. But, dude, there's a common denominator here. This guy is always, listen, people don't just, nobody ends up in the principal's office every week for no reason. Like the principal doesn't just call you in and say, hey, what's up, Mike? Good to see you. Yeah, you having a good Monday? No. I mean, if someone's getting called into the principal's office every week, that's a bad thing. Tyreek Hill is always involved. Okay, maybe not always. That's an over exaggeration, but he's consistently involved in something. Dude, if you're Tyreek Hill, fuck ever winning another Super Bowl. Dude, go get every single penny, nickel, and dime you can juice out from a franchise. Because at this point, it's like you have a lot of kids with a lot of different mamas. You got a lot of mouths to feed, and you're going to be paying for a lot of colleges in the future. I mean, you won one ring. Okay, great. You got to get a lot of money for the rest of your career because you have these ex-girlfriends, ex-fiancés, ex-wives. Dude, I think the Chiefs are thrilled that they're no longer involved with it. Like, this is not their problem anymore. to deal with. Miami has plenty to deal with. The last thing they need is more drama from Tyreek Hill, a guy who they've paid not once, but twice. And like I said earlier, you don't draft or sign or pay anyone big bucks for them to get in trouble and not be available. I know certain things in the contract can be void if they get into trouble, if they get charged, suspended, what have you. But you don't ever want that. Well, you don't ever want it to go there. You just never do. Listen, good luck to Tyreek Hill. Like, even if he's in the clear and did nothing wrong, it's like, dude, you're still constantly involved in something. That's got to be taken care of. And that's a you problem, not a me problem. Do we have an indication of what the Chiefs might do in this upcoming draft? I mean, let's think of the team as a whole right now, offense and defense. Defensively, yeah, sure. You need a little bit of help at the defensive line spot. Chris Jones could use a little bit of help at the defensive tackle spot, especially with the loss of Tershawn Wharton. I think the linebacker room is in a really good place. I don't think the Chiefs are looking for a linebacker unless it's in the later rounds for depth purposes. Secondary, yeah, that might need a little bit of help here. Might be looking for a cornerback or a safety. Might be looking at a couple of defensive backs. Offensively speaking, I mean, I don't think wide receiver is a serious need, but I don't think they would pass on Luther Burden if he falls the way some people are expecting him to fall. You have some interesting things going on with the Kansas City Chiefs right now, to where, they have some things plugged in. Now, they've done a good job re-signing a lot of players. They lost some players, but that was expected this year with the salary cap. They traded Joe Thuney, got a 4th-round draft pick for next year out of him. Was hoping it'd be this year, but Chicago's rebuilding, and they want that rebuild to move further this year, so they probably wanted to keep this year's 4th-round pick. But the offensive line seems to need some help still. Yeah, they got Jalen Moore at left tackle, but left guard, there's a wide open hole right there. A lot of people think it could be Kingsley Suamataia. Some people think Mike Caliendo could be a guy that gets reconsidered for week 1 left guard spot. Some people think that the Chiefs might go after a left guard in the 1st round. The way I see things here, and I think this is the best time to pull this up here. So every team has a top 30 visit. This is not the top 30 of what, the media thinks or how these are ranked. These are the 30 players that you're allowed to have private visits with, and this essentially allows you to get to know the players better. Doesn't mean you're going to draft them, just means you want to learn a little bit more about them. This is from Haley Lewis. She used to be with KSHB News here in Kansas City. I think she's now with KCSN. So of the top 30 visits so far, according to her tweet here that I have pulled up, how many players they have? They have 4 players on defense, and they have a bunch of players on offense. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on offense. And 8 of them are offensive linemen. 4 of them are non-offensive linemen on the offensive side. And so far, they have 16 total visits. You don't have to have 30. You can have up to 30. The Chiefs only have 4 defensive players, 2 defensive linemen, a linebacker, and a cornerback. As far as the non-offensive linemen go, they have wide receiver Isaiah Bond, a former teammate of Xavier Worthy's, and a guy who threatened to beat Worthy's 40-time record at the combine. Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green, tight end, and then 2 running backs, Damian Martinez of Miami, and then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt of Arizona. So outside of that, 8 of these 16 players, half of the players that they've visited with privately so far are offensive linemen. And I think this is a very strong indication that this could be a heavy offensive line type of draft for Kansas City. Now, if you recall last year, it was a pretty heavy loaded offensive line draft for Kansas City because they drafted Kingsley Suamataia, trading up 1 spot to get him with in the 2nd round. And then on day 3 of the draft, I think in the 4th round, they got Hunter Norzad. And in the 7th round, they got CJ Hansen. I think I have that right. Hunter Norzad in the 4th round. And CJ Hansen in the 7th. No, correction. Hunter Norzad in the 5th round. My apologies. CJ Hansen in the 7th round. I knew one of them was in the 7th. They were both day 3 draft picks. So you drafted 3 offensive linemen last year. You brought in DJ Humphries. Unfortunately, didn't work out. You drafted who was it? Jawan. No, I'm not Jawan Taylor. Wanye Morris from the year before, not last year, but the year before. You signed Jalen Moore. The Chiefs have been bringing in a lot of offensive linemen, specifically at the offensive tackle position, to try to find some sort of improvement there, and they have not been able to make progress on that. When you look at the Chiefs right now, they have the 31st pick. They also have the 63rd pick. Shortly after that, 3 picks later, they've got the 66th pick. Very early in the 3rd round, they've got another late 3rd round pick, 95th overall. And in day 3 of the draft, they have a late 4th round pick. And then they have 3 7th round picks. One of them is from the Panthers, early 7th, the 10th pick of the 7th round. And then they have 2 compensatory picks, pick number 251 and 257. And 257 is going to be the final pick of the 2025 NFL draft. And listen, even though these 2 compensatory picks are both 7th rounders, the Chiefs like that. I mean, you saw the Chiefs had a couple of good 7th rounders in 2021 in Jalen Watson and Isaiah Pacheco. That certainly panned out well for them. Not that they've been standout or elite players or the best at their positions, but they certainly done more good than harm for the Chiefs. Seeing that the Chiefs, out of their 16 unofficial visits so far, and maybe there's 1 or 2 more that just haven't been leaked out there, that's always possible, but of the 16 that we know of, according to various reports, half of them are offensive linemen. Of the draft picks you have, so the Chiefs have 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 4 picks in the first 2 days. 5, 6, 7, 8. Of those 8 draft picks, I would not be surprised if 2 or 3 of them were offensive linemen. You might see one at number 31. Maybe they take a flyer on one in one of the 3rd round picks. My guess would be with the 95th overall pick. That certainly would be a possibility. Maybe 1 or 2 more in the final day, and a majority of their draft picks are in the 7th round. They have a late 4th round pick, and then they pick in the 7th round 3 times. My whole thing is this with the Chiefs, how they approach this draft here, because they haven't gotten the offensive line position right in the draft. The knock on Veach for a while has been, oh, he can't draft wide receivers. Well, he got Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, and I know Rice got hurt this year. But I think there's still a lot of hope and optimism that he'll bounce back and be as good as he was last year up until his injury. I think they'll draft a running back somewhere in there. There is speculation they might do it early if Caleb Johnson is available. Cam Scatterbo, I know, is a very popular name. Devin Neal, a guy who I didn't even realize this as a KU fan myself. 3 1,000-yard rushing seasons, which has never been done before in Kansas history before. And this is a program that once had the Kansas Comet, my favorite Jayhawk of all time. I also had John Cornish, who's had some success professionally. And then you look at DJ Giddens from K-State, who I think is an underrated prospect in this draft at the running back position. You got some options there. You got some options for sure. But I'm just looking specifically at the Chiefs. I think a majority of their draft picks will be on the offensive side of the football this year. I really do. I mean, last year they opened up with Xavier Worthy for their first round pick. They got Kingsley Suamataia for their second round pick. I mentioned the other two offensive linemen they got in CJ Hansen and Hunter Norzad. They also got Jared Wiley. Their first three draft picks, Worthy, Suamataia, and Wiley in the fourth round, the tight end who unfortunately had a season-ending injury there. All offensive players. The only defensive players the Chiefs got, Jaden Hicks, who sounds like he's going to play a hell of a lot more this year, and Kamal Haddon. And Haddon ended up being cut after the preseason. So there was really only one defensive player because all of the other draft picks were retained. The year before, the year they drafted Felix Anudike-Uzomah, that was their first round pick, 31 overall. Then they went offensive players, Rashee Rice and Wanye Morris. And then after that, they went defense the rest of the draft. Shamari Connor, BJ Thompson, Keandre Coburn, and Nick Jones. So I think this is going to be more of an offensive heavy draft. Of those 8 picks, I would imagine 5 or 6 of them will be offensive players because I think that side of the ball needs a lot more help. Yeah, I was disappointed, Joshua, in Haddon. I thought he was going to come through and be a big part of that secondary. Instead, it ended up being Jaden Hicks. He was a good depth player for the Chiefs in that position. So they don't have any other back besides Carson Steele on contract next year. That I did not know. But that does make sense. Yeah, Isaiah Pacheco's entering the final year of his rookie deal. Kareem Hunt signed a 1-year deal. Elijah Mitchell. See, I got Elijah Mitchell and Christian Fulton mixed up. Fulton signed a 2-year deal. Mitchell, yeah, I think is on a 1-year deal. Yeah, you're right about that, Zach. That's a good call. If you can get a Devin Neal, a Cam Scottaboo, Caleb Johnson, like one of those types of running backs, either early second or late second or early third, I think that would be a very smart investment there. And listen, who's been the best running back in the Patrick Mahomes era? I guess Kareem Hunt, because before Kareem Hunt got cut, that dude was one of the best football players in terms of total yards from scrimmage in the league. Led the NFL in rushing yards his rookie year, and then the following year, the year he got cut, up until the point where he got cut, he was, I think, second or third in terms of total yards, yards on offense. Unfortunately, we know what happened. He got cut. And by the way, who was he behind? Todd Gurley. Dude, that guy just disappeared, and he's not that old. Todd Gurley turns 31 in August. Kareem Hunt is 30 and he got a second chance with the Chiefs. But that's the running back position for you, I guess. Yeah, Zach says Damian Williams. Damian Williams never was like a standout in the regular season, but the guy, people don't realize this. Damian Williams actually shattered the franchise record for most touchdowns all time in the postseason. Now, that's been broken by Travis Kelce, but Damian Williams was a really under-the-radar player. And I know a lot of people wonder, well, if Kareem Hunt didn't get in trouble, how would that AFC Championship game have ended? I don't know, man. Damian Williams scored 3 touchdowns in that game. So I don't know if Hunt would have made a big difference. Maybe we can discover that in an alternate universe. But I think when you look at the Chiefs right now, offensive line needs help, running back needs help, wide receiver doesn't need help. Your 4 guys are Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Juju Smith-Schuster. And I know Juju is not the receiver he once was. And when the Chiefs re-signed him, I saw a comment from a Chiefs fan saying, oh, well, he did nothing last year. Okay. Yeah, he had that 100-yard game against the Saints, had the drop in the end zone that turned into a pick, but he made up for it later on with that big play. I think it was like a 50-yard play. But the Buffalo Bills defense would strongly argue that that comment about how he didn't do anything, because Juju had a really one of those. Remember Marquez Valdez-Scantling, how he had those two big catches against the Bills in that playoff game when Tyler Bass missed? Juju played a very similar game to MVS. That's how he came through in that game. Yeah, Jamal Charles with Patrick Mahomes in the that's certainly one we can dive into and explore in Madden or something like that. But I'll say this about the Chiefs right now: the best running back they've had, easily Kareem Hunt. In the postseason, yeah, Damian Williams, Isaiah Pacheco. Sure, I mean he's had some moments. He's been kind of quiet in the last two postseasons. The Chiefs need to figure out who their running back is going to be. Because, and listen, maybe we don't like Matt Nagy, but guess who does? Andy Reid. And his opinion outweighs all of ours. But if the Chiefs can find a running back that can help provide a balance, and I'm not saying a down for down running back like what Kareem Hunt once was, or what Derrick Henry kind of is, or Saquon Barkley. I'm not saying you have to have that type of running back. If you could have a running back that's, as good as Jonathan Taylor has been for the Colts for the best time when he was there. I mean, still is, but you get the idea. Or if you can get someone that can play at a Josh Jacobs level, I think that's great. Again, you don't have to have someone that's Emmitt Smith or Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Priest Holmes. You don't need that at the running back position. Just someone that can maybe just provide more consistency at that position. Because I don't know how much Kareem Hunt has left in the tank. I don't know if Isaiah Pacheco is a player the Chiefs want to bring back for a long-term deal. Obviously, they'll see how he does coming off that injury. Elijah Mitchell, could he be that guy? Maybe. Samaje Perine, obviously they didn't want to keep. They didn't bring back Jerick McKinnon, who was available, but instead they chose to bring back Kareem Hunt. I think the Chiefs do need to consider a running back, either with the 63rd pick or with the 66th pick. Because if you can bring in a really good running back, and again, I think there are some good options in the late second or early third round, I think that can really help Patrick Mahomes and the rest of this Chiefs offense. I'd like to see that. Because we haven't, what was if I'm not mistaken, the Chiefs didn't really have a lot of long runs on offense this year. And I'm going to pull it up right now because I know Kareem Hunt did not have a lot of big runs. He had one against the Texans to put the game away. But what was like the longest run by any Chiefs running back last year? I'm looking that up right now. Longest run for Kareem Hunt was 20 yards. Longest run for Isaiah Pacheco was 34 yards. So that's the longest all year. Pacheco had a 34-yard run. That's not good. Patrick Mahomes had a 33-yard run. Patrick Mahomes almost had the longest run of the season for the Chiefs last year. And if you look at ESPN, they have they also have a category for big plays, meaning rushing yards of 20 plus yards. Kareem Hunt had one, Pacheco had one, Mahomes had two, Xavier Worthy had two. Worthy's longest, by the way, was 21. McCole Hardman had a 20-yard run. I mean, the Chiefs need to figure out who that's going to be. They probably thought Carson Steele could have been that guy, but he had issues with ball security. He had 3 fumbles up in, I think, the first 5 games, and you hardly saw Carson Steele touch the ball again the rest of the season. I think it's pertinent for the Chiefs that they have a couple of offensive linemen, and maybe offensive linemen that can also run block, not just pass block, because the Chiefs need to provide a balance for Patrick Mahomes and this offense. Their last 1,000-yard rusher, I think, was Kareem Hunt. Yeah, Pacheco had 935 last year. Kareem Hunt had 728 this year. 2022, Pacheco's rookie year, he had 830. 2021, Darrell Williams led the Chiefs in rushing yards in 2021. I do not recall that. That was Tyreek Hill's last year with the Chiefs. Tyrann Matthews last year with the Chiefs. 2020, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 803 yards. Remember that name? Feels like forever ago. 2019, Damian Williams had 498. Yeah, the Chiefs just haven't had. You know what the Chiefs have not had? Okay, there's Kareem Hunt, 824 yards in 2018. Now, obviously, he got cut early. That's part of it. 2017, Kansas City's last 1,000-yard rusher, Kareem Hunt. 1,327 yards. He led the league that year in rushing yards. The Chiefs have never had two things. One, an all-pro left tackle with Mahomes as a starter, nor have they had a 1,000-yard rusher. Now, that hasn't hurt Kansas City. I mean, for crying out loud, they've been to the AFC Championship all 7 years with Mahomes as a starter, winning 3 Super Bowls and appearing in 2 more of them. But could a running back that's good and consistent help Kansas City continue to reach the AFC title game and maybe give them more Super Bowls? Sure. I definitely think that's on the table for sure. I'm really curious what their confidence level is like with Jalen Moore right now. I mean, obviously they signed him, so they have some sort of confidence in him, but are they just going to leave it up to Jalen Moore's hands? Like, is he the left tackle and no one else? No question about it, no competition? I think they've got to bring in someone. Any insurance policy you can bring in to make sure Mahomes has, I know I mentioned All-Pro a minute ago, but at least just a viable, just an above average left tackle. I think the Chiefs are going to try to ensure that in this draft. And maybe they'll look at draft picks from last year. Would Kingsley get a second chance? I don't think so, but I don't think we can dismiss that possibility. I think it's a very slim chance. But that could be on the table if needed. God forbid if there are injuries that take place. Kind of like the injury bug with the wide receiver position. Maybe that happens on the offensive line with the tackles, and maybe you have to convert Kingsley back to left tackle. I don't know. But I think if you're Kansas City, there's a lot to consider offensively in this draft here. A couple of other things to go over before we sign off here. Charles Omenihu. So the Chiefs had a couple of virtual press conferences today with Mike Edwards, who they re-signed. Who was the defensive lineman they recently brought in? Janarius Robinson from the Vikings, and also Charles Omenihu, who has re-signed with the Chiefs. Mike Edwards coming in for a second stint, of course. Charles Omenihu was asked about moving on from Super Bowl 59, because if you recall, the week of Super Bowl 59 after the Chiefs lost, Charles Omenihu was really the only one who was willing to do any kind of interview on a national stage, and he was on one of the FS1 shows. I apologize, I don't remember the names of these shows. It's the one that has LaShawn McCoy, Chase Daniel, Emmanuel Acho, that crew. I think it's called The Facility. And he was already talking as if he's part of the team, saying we are going to come back and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm a big fan of Charles Omenihu. His first year with the Chiefs, he had, 7 sacks in 11 games? That is pretty damn good, because he was suspended for the first 6 games. And he also had the big sack strip on Lamar Jackson in the AFC title game. Unfortunately, the Chiefs could not take advantage of it, but he did his job. He also had a strip sack in the playoffs this past year. So Charles Omenihu, there's something about Charles Omenihu where he really comes through for you when you need it the most. Now, I think if you're Kansas City, that defensive line certainly needs to see more of Charles Omenihu, because Charles Omenihu said he hasn't played a week 1 game since I think his 4th year in the NFL, and I think he's entering his 7th or his 8th. This is a guy who can seriously do some damage to opposing quarterbacks if he starts 16 or 17 games a year. We saw that in 2023. The way he played could have easily been a top 10 defensive end if he played all 16 or 17 games that year. I say all 16 or 17 because the Chiefs rested their starters in week 17 or week 18. But I think this is going to be an important year for Charles Omenihu. But he spoke to the media today and was asked about moving on from Super Bowl 59, obviously a game no one wants in their memories here in Kansas City. He says you just got to close the book on it. And you just got to learn from it, move on, and try to be better from it and not let something like that happen again. And he's absolutely right. That is how you approach that kind of thing. Now, from a coaching standpoint, how often does Super Bowl 59 get brought up to the team? Because the Chiefs, they're going to start their offseason workout program pretty soon. Now, I think this is going to be virtual like it's been in the last couple of years, but they'll eventually meet up for OTAs. And that'll be, I mean, they'll meet virtually, and then they'll meet in person for OTAs in May. If you're Andy Reid, how often do you bring up Super Bowl 59? I mean, it doesn't go undiscussed. Because it's no longer, the goal is not to win the division or to just make the playoffs or to reach the Final Four of the NFL, which the Chiefs have done every year with Mahomes. It is always Super Bowl or bust for the Chiefs. And I'm sure there's going to be some sort of discussion had, and probably early. Just talk about it, get it out there, get it over with, and let them know that was embarrassing and that the player should use that as motivation to not let something like that happen again, whether it's a regular season game or a playoff game. So I certainly think it gets brought up at some point. But you know the Chiefs, they don't dwell on these kinds of things. Listen, we've seen the Chiefs overcome a 24-0 deficit in a freaking playoff game. I mean, listen, a 24-0 deficit, overcoming that in a regular season or a playoff game is impressive. Doing that in the playoffs in one quarter or erasing it in like 11 or 10 minutes, I mean, Arrowhead turned into a party. Like it went from a library to the greatest party on earth. This team overcame a really slow start in 2021 where Mahomes led the NFL in interceptions and the Chiefs were 1-2 and then 3-4. People wrote off the Chiefs. They were last place in the AFC West. They ended up winning the AFC West. Didn't end well with that AFC Championship game against the Bengals, but they avenged that loss a year later without Tyreek Hill. They go on to win the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, make it to a third. Obviously couldn't pull off the three-peat, but still made it further than a lot of people really expected. Nobody expected the Chiefs to even come close to a Super Bowl in any of these 3 years without Tyreek Hill. They find a way, yeah, you mentioned Joshua, winning a lot of these close games, for sure. The ultimate goal is always the Super Bowl in Kansas City. Like the Raiders. Let's use the Raiders as an example. Do you think the Raiders, the goal for all 32 teams, they all want to win a championship. But who realistically has that goal? Like, let's be honest here. The Raiders are not going into, OTAs saying, yeah, we're better than the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Chargers, the three rivals that made it to the playoffs. The Chiefs have that realistic expectation of making the Super Bowl. And even with the loss of Joe Thuney and some serious question marks at left tackle and left guard, the Chiefs are still one of the betting favorites to win the AFC. In fact, they're number 2, I think, on the Super Bowl list. Not that, Vegas is always right. Majority of the time they are. But it's one of those situations where if you're the Chiefs, you know that the target is still big on your back, even after a whiplash in the Super Bowl. This team does have some things to figure out. They got to learn from Super Bowl 59, put it behind them, get ready for a whole new year. And again, to go back to my comment, this Chiefs team didn't get to where they are by just rolling over and quitting. I mean, 7 straight AFC Championship game appearances, 5 Super Bowl appearances, and 3 wins. It sounds like a lot of roses and rainbows. That's not always been the case. Look at the year they led the league in drops. Look at the poor offensive tackle play. And then, the distractions that get brought up, that people are saying Kelsey's too distracted with his relationship and all of that. Some of the players getting into trouble. The Chiefs still have all of these things, and they've still been able to make it to a championship. So even if there is a big glaring hole somewhere on the team, they're not going to just roll over. Patrick Mahomes' essentially his rookie year, the Chiefs had a 31st ranked defense, and they were an offside and an overtime away from a Super Bowl with Bob Sutton. So this Chiefs team, I mean, it's been far from perfect. So if you've been following this very closely, you see, there are some problems, but they find a way to overcome them. And that's why they're such a great football team. Rochelle says, I wonder how often Brady talked about his losses. You need that to get you ready for the next season or a comeback. Let me say that's a really good point. Let me just say this. How many games did the Chiefs win? 15. Do you guys know how many times a team has won 15 or more games? It's a very short list. And I'm pulling this up right now. The list of teams that have won 15 or more games. You have the 49ers from 1984. You have the Chicago Bears from 1985. You have the Vikings 1998. The Steelers in 04. The Patriots in 07. They won 16 games, actually. The only team to ever win 16 games in 1 year. The Packers won 15 in 2011. The Chiefs were the only team to hand them a loss that year, if you recall. On 6 days' notice with a new coach and a new quarterback. 15 wins for the Panthers in 2015. And then in 2024, 2 teams won 15 games. The Chiefs and the Lions. Now, let me just double check something real quickly here so I don't make any mistakes here. Because I thought I saw something from one media outlet that not a lot of teams win the Super Bowl when they have 15 or more wins. And I'm looking right now, the Chicago Bears won the Super Bowl in 1985. 1985, that's one of the best defensive performances by a Super Bowl team. And then the 49ers won the year before. So the 49ers in 1984, they won 15 games. The Bears won 15 games a year later, and they won the Super Bowl. Did the Steelers win the Super Bowl in the 2004? Was that this, or was that the Patriots? I know the Steelers won a Super Bowl somewhere in the mid 2000s. I'm not exactly sure when. I don't think it was 2004. I think 04 was New England's year. Yeah. 04 was, they won the Super Bowl in 05. I knew it was either 04 or 05. Okay. Anyway, I got that out of the way. So my point is this. Is there a correlation to winning 15 games and not winning a Super Bowl since 1998? Because the Bears and the 49ers did it in the mid 80s. But the 98 Vikings, 04 Steelers, 07 Patriots, 11 Packers, 15 Panthers, and the 24 Chiefs and Lions, they all won 15 or 16 games, and they didn't win the Super Bowl. Because, to go back to Rochelle's point, you do learn a hell of a lot more from your losses than you do your wins. And I think Kansas City only having one true loss last year, forget about that Broncos game. Kansas City didn't give a shit about the game. You learn a lot more from your losses than you do your wins. Now, don't get me wrong. The Chiefs had a lot of close games last year, and the coaches absolutely had a lot to go over with them in the film room and trying to apply it in practice the rest of the week and making sure they're better prepared for the following game. And listen, even if you win in a blowout, coaches will always, always, always find something to go over with your team when you're reviewing the tape the next day. But I just kind of wonder because, listen, even if the Chiefs were to lose one or two more games, they would not have gotten the number one seed. And if they didn't get the number one seed, I don't know if they would have gotten to the Super Bowl. Because if you recall last year, who were the two teams in the NFL that won all their home games? It was the Chiefs and it was the Bills. Nobody else was perfect at home last year. Those were the only two teams. Chiefs were 8-0, and the Bills were 8-0. Nobody else was undefeated at home. And it was the Bills who ended up visiting the Chiefs, and the Chiefs got the edge there in the AFC title game. But I still wonder, could winning too much be a bad thing? It sounds like a weird thing to say. If you win 16, 15 games, surely you can go all the way. But I think listen, I've said this many times. A lot of times when a team loses in an upset, especially if it ends up being a blowout like Super Bowl 59 was, a big part of it is overconfidence. I truly believe that. So I think looking at this Kansas City team right now, this is a Chiefs team that needs to learn more from their losses. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, they need to lose more. I do think they will lose more. I don't think they'll win 15 games. I think it'll be closer to 12 or 13, maybe 14. But Kansas City needs to not allow a lot of these closer games. Because I think if the Chiefs were better in preventing one-score games, maybe that would have been a big difference maker in the Super Bowl. I don't know. I'm not saying that was the all solution, but I think it could have helped because the Chiefs just looked lost once it was not close in the Super Bowl. But I think that's something for the Chiefs to look at here. All right. One last thing. I did not have a chance to go over this last week, so I do want to touch on this real quickly. The Chiefs, or ESPN rather, is putting together a docuseries on Kansas City's dynasty. And the response that a lot of people provided for this was, we're in the middle of the dynasty. Why are we putting a documentary out there now? Well, first of all, I think ESPN wants to say they were the first. Because even though, yeah, sure, it's not over, it's far from over. ESPN wants to be able to tell the story and there is a big story to tell up to this point, the first 7 years in the Patrick Mahomes era. And I'm sure there's going to be some things to bring up with Andy Reid when he came and turned around Kansas City and maybe some of the struggles the Chiefs went through right before Andy Reid in the 80s, the 70s, because this franchise hasn't had any kind of high-level success since Lenny Dawson in that Golden Age Chiefs team. Listen, ESPN, they were very quick to do a documentary on Chiefsaholic, and that investigation was not even close to complete at the time, but they wanted to be the first to tell the story. So to my understanding, this is going to be available on ESPN and Disney Plus. I'm glad it's not ESPN Plus because that streaming service has been a shipwreck at best. I find this interesting. And by the way, I saw a comment. Someone says there's already a docuseries on the Chiefs. It's called The Franchise. Now, I'll be honest, I don't watch The Franchise. I watched one episode. I watched the episode after Hollywood Brown got hurt because I wanted to kind of see the behind the scenes with that. I mean, listen, it's a well-produced show. It's a well-put-together show. I'm not bashing it. You can tell there's a lot of hard work put into that. But who is it produced by? Who is it created by? Who's telling the story? It's employees of the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the ones in control of that narrative. So the thing about ESPN, doing this is that this is going to be told objectively. This is going to be told from the lens of someone that is not inside that locker room. That's not an employee that doesn't get their paycheck from Clark Hunt. And I think that's a good thing, because those are the best stories told when they are told objectively, when they are told from a fair side. That's what we want to see here. Now, I kind of wonder, what are they going to discuss here? Obviously, the success with Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and how great he's played at the tight end position, and how the Chiefs overcame the Tyreek Hill trade. But I think there's also got to be some honesty with this, because there have been some down moments for sure. I mean, look at Super Bowl 50 and the events leading up to that with Britt Reed. I think that needs to be told in an honest fashion. You know what I'd be very curious to see? I think you got to explain the whole John Dorsey thing, getting fired the same year they drafted Patrick Mahomes. Because even though, I mean, listen, I know Brett Veach gets credit for finding Mahomes, but John Dorsey was the guy who made the draft pick, the call to trade up and everything. In fact, John Dorsey drafted Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes, the three guys who are your core three guys on this football team. But the one thing I want to know with this docuseries, because it's supposed to be a 6-episode docuseries that'll be released at some point here in 2025. Do we get to see the whole behind the scenes thing with Patrick Mahomes and his family life? Because his family has been in the public eye. Some of it's been negative. A lot of it's been negative, in fact. Does Travis Kelce's personal life, does that get brought up? Because like I mentioned earlier, Kelce was accused of being too distracted and could not focus on football because he was distracted by his celebrity girlfriend and all the other things that came with it. Do those stories get told? Because I do think it's part of the story. I'm not saying you have to be intrusive or say negative things. Because a lot of times in these docuseries, when a team, obviously the Chiefs accepted ESPN to come in behind closed doors, because that's what was going on during the 2024 season. Now, were there limitations? I'm sure there were. But they're obviously aware that they're going to ask a lot of questions about a lot of things. And I just kind of wonder, how deep do we dive into the negatives? That's what I'm curious to see. That I think is going to be an important part of that docuseries, because there have been ups. We mentioned it earlier. There have been ups and downs during this dynasty, and we're talking personnel wise. Now, as far as front office, behind closed doors, those things, could there be? Look at the what was the one with Michael Jordan called? I can't remember the name of it. It was by ESPN. The Last Dance. Look at The Last Dance. I mean, just these stories that were told there that nobody knew before with Jerry Krause and everyone else. And by the way, the people, the executive producer involved with The Last Dance is also heavily involved with this Chiefs docuseries. So you know it's going to be good. This is going to be a fun one. This is going to be the first of many documentaries that are going to be told about this Chiefs team. And yeah, there's going to be a 30 for 30 about Kelce and Mahomes and Andy Reid. There are going to be a lot of these things for years to come. This is the first one right here. So I'm excited to see the positives and the negatives that get outlined and told in this docuseries. I'm eager to see when it comes out and just what kind of a show it's going to be. I'm excited to see that. Yeah, a lot of you guys seem to be excited as well. Robert says negative sell. I mean, yeah, I think here's what really sells: untold stories. Look at crime, true crime stories. all of that is negative. But it is interesting. If you guys saw the Chiefsaholic documentary on Amazon Prime, one of the police officers was asked in the end of it, they're like, because the question was, what, do Americans love a bank robber? He's like, no, Americans just love a good story, and this is a good story, even though we just kind of said negative things about this guy. So that is the reality of it, Robert. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So should be a really good one. I'm excited to see it when it comes out, and check out all 6 or 8 episodes, however many episodes it's supposed to be. So that'll be good. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the Chief Zone podcast. Thank you all for joining me tonight. We will be back this Friday for the Red Friday live chat. I know the Chiefs fairly quiet on the news front, so it probably won't be a very long Red Friday live chat. But join me nonetheless. Bring in your questions, your comments, and we'll respond. We'll do that this Friday for our Red Friday live chat. If you missed any part of the live portion, it'll be available shortly on Facebook, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else where you can download and listen to a podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Thank you for joining me tonight on the Chief Zone podcast. I will talk to you all later. Take care.